Welcome, everybody, to a very special Cemetery Files. I'm your host, Jay Hill, with... she takes it.
Kelly Schaefer.
Okay. That was awesome. So we have Wendy and Chuck Wilson from Two Mediums to Go, and we are so pleased to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. These people are two of my favorite and best friends. I love them to death.
I hear so much from you about them that I feel like I know them like forever. You know, so yeah, she talks very highly of you both. So
well, we feel the same way.
Yeah.
That's why she was our first guest.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So that should have made you feel pretty special, Kelly.
Yeah. It did. It made me feel very special. Right. I was their very first guest.
Right. So yeah. So
you never forget your first.
Yeah. So actually, we have a few things to talk about. Actually,
hold it together, there, Chuck. Hold it together.
Yeah, we have a few things to talk about. You guys had both of us on your show, Wendy and Chuck, and I must say that the interview that I had with you guys was so much fun, and it was just one of those things where my all-time favorite. It's like my top one actually favorite interview.
Thank you.
So yeah, so that was.
I love their show. It's fun.
Yeah,
their show is very fun,
and it was very much so. I mean, it made me feel really welcome and very at ease, you know. And not that I usually get nervous about doing, shows or podcasts or interviews or whatever, but no, it was just they made me feel really welcome, and I just want to thank you. So
well, thank you.
Yeah.
We succeeded in our goal of making you feel welcome, wanted, and part of the
heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We talk about dark, heavy topics, so we like to keep it at times lighthearted because we do have fun in the paranormal community.
Right.
You got to have that balance. So I'm glad that we succeeded in making it a good.
Yeah, most definitely. So you guys were recently on an investigation together, all three of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we did the Octagon Hall, but we're getting ready to do another one this weekend.
I thought it was last weekend. Oh my God.
No, it's this weekend.
And it's our 1-year anniversary. So what better way to celebrate than to go on an investigation?
Right.
Hang out with friends.
Yeah, just hang out.
I feel so privileged.
Right.
Yeah, I feel so privileged being their first, on their podcast, and then there for their first anniversary. It's like I'm bringing champagne.
Right.
There you go.
So yeah,
we have so much in common. Like the first thing we did as a couple, not even married, was we went to a Paracon in Virginia City, and I was like, I have met my soulmate because he was fully for it. So that's why I said, Kelly's got an investigation, and it hits our anniversary weekend. We hadn't made plans yet. I was like, you want to go?
Yeah,
sounds good.
It was cool. Everybody dropped out of the investigation, and it's going to be just us three.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was supposed to be 10.
We're staying. Well, yeah, there were supposed to be 10 to 12 of us, and we are going to be staying in an unpublicized. Can't tell you where it is or anything. Haunted Airbnb. It's gorgeous. It just looks like it's straight out of the Munsters.
Right.
And then we're doing the United Methodist Village, which is an enormous building, and we're just going to have a blast.
Yeah, I would love to go to that. I would love to go to that, but I know that I work on the weekends, and actually, it's a little bit of a drive for me. So, but yeah,
it's about
how many hours?
7.
How many hours
like
is it for
5.
you, Jay?
Okay, ours is almost 7.
About the same for us.
Yeah. So I'm taking a half a day off of work on Friday, and we're just gonna head up on Friday afternoon. So
Yeah. Have this. The fact that we're able to do things with Kelly because she's available and we can do it. It's just a kick in the shorts. The octagon.
And she's so active. Like we
Yes.
want the more that we do this investigations, the more we hone our skills.
Yes.
Not just through readings, but through, because Kelly will tell you, we didn't know anything about the octagon, and we walked in with our heads down so that we couldn't read the environment. So all we could see was the floor. And so I laughed because I very quickly got a hit on something that if I would have looked up, I would have known that, of course, it was Civil War, because they had a huge Confederate flag in the dining room. But I did not see that. So I laughed when we came back and looked around, and I started, of course, that's why I'm glad we didn't read the environment and just looked at the floor, because I was really into, and I think you were too, we really were into what was hitting. I didn't hesitate. He didn't hesitate. So I got the hit that I got that was super clear as I smelled dirty bodies, like sick bodies. And
I didn't know that was it.
Yeah. Remember, because I had it in the corner. You were in the back towards the door. I was right by the dining room table, and I said, Chuck, do you smell that? I smell like flowers and a dead body.
Yeah.
And then I turned really fast because I heard somebody coughing, and it was a wet cough, not like tuberculosis, but like been shot in the chest and gurgling. And so when I turned, I knew that I was seeing the dining room table, but it was gone in my vision, and I just saw beds. And so I was very specific. I said, this was Civil War, and this room and the next room were used for a hospital. And then I did not like the front door, and I had no idea it was by the front door. I was so disoriented by looking down. All I felt was this really bad black energy, and I just told her to get me away from it. And that was the front door that gets knocked on randomly for no reason. And then Chuck,
I got a pull on that one.
Yeah.
And then
I got a hit on. First time I got hit on that place. Yeah.
And then he got. What did you get?
Oh,
the kitchen.
Yeah, the kitchen area. It had that weird, dead, ominous energy to it. It's like dead air with cold chills to it. Best way I know how to describe that.
Kind of stagnant.
Yeah. Just real ominous.
But what did you get? Do you remember the fire?
Oh, the fire downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The girl being killed.
Yeah. I'm like, when we were downstairs in the kitchen area, I looked right at Kelly and I said, okay, someone died right here in the kitchen. And I mean, it was not pretty.
It was, and it ended up, it was Elizabeth, the child that had been burned in the kitchen fire. And it's also the same area that I picked up an adult female's voice saying Elizabeth.
Wow.
Nice.
So I was so impressed with Chuck at that point. It's like, dude, you hit it right on the head.
Thank you.
Right on the head.
Yeah, there's so many different Civil War places and houses that were used, you know what I mean, for that type of stuff. And it was just, it's plentiful down there. And I really want to go down there to experience that with Kelly and, possibly you guys. I'd like to
be great.
Have 4 mediums in one room. Well, that would be an experience.
No, it's called 3 mediums and I don't want to be.
The reluctant medium.
The reluctant
now that's
medium.
Something you could probably have a book cover on. The reluctant medium.
Exactly.
There you go. That's your next
edit that one
medium.
too.
Right, that's your next.
Okay, cool.
But I have to say, Kelly would say the coolest experience that we all 3 shared.
Oh yeah.
And this is what I love because it was in real time. I walked in first. Kelly was behind me, and Chuck was behind me, and we're on the top floor.
Right.
We're walking into the master bedroom. At this point, we'd already gone downstairs, and there was nothing to give away the upstairs. So we were looking where we were walking, and I walked through the door, and I felt like I was walking through this membrane that was stretching, and I felt really disoriented. And I popped through it, turned around, stumbled, looked at both of them at the same time. That there were no lights on in the room. It was sun coming through the window. And then everything went dark for 3 seconds?
It was just
like somewhere around in there.
Like I almost thought it was a truck that went by and blocked the sun, but where we're at, that couldn't happen because we were on the top floor. And I turned and you said, whoa.
he said, whoa. And then I said, did you feel that? I'm like, you felt that? Oh, man.
So all three of us felt like we were pushing through a membrane. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I need to ask you, when you talk about that membrane, have you ever ran into something like that when you're just out and about? Not even investigating, but have you ever ran into that?
Yeah.
Just like if you go to a grocery store or someplace like that, you know, it's the weirdest feeling, you know, and it's just kind of like, God, what was here, you know, or who just walked in front of me, you know?
Who just walked through me?
Right.
Yeah. I wonder is that the feeling of somebody walking through you?
I think it varies.
I tend to discredit it. Like, did I eat lunch? Do I feel good?
Right.
Like I am always going to be one of those that I question it super hard.
You're right.
So that's why I was glad that Kelly and Chuck were there, because I would have blown that off. Like, oh, you know, I have controlled diabetes,
physical reaction.
but sometimes my blood sugar will make me feel kind of funny. So to have two other people have the exact same experience was like, okay, it wasn't anything physical. Because Kelly and I have discussed this. We're both very skeptic. So I'm always going to go for an answer, a very practical answer. Even when it's my own intuition, I still question it.
Oh, I do too. I mean, that's without dispute. You know, I go to different places, and I think I was given one of my coworkers a ride home, and we're taking this back way. And for some reason, when I'm around him, my gifts are a little bit heightened, and I don't know what it is with him, but I had him on an investigation before, and he's a good friend, and it's just his energy kind of meshes with mine, and so it enhances it. So we were driving by places, and I'm like, yeah, that place, you know that place? He's like, yeah. It's like, that's got stuff in it. He's like, I always wondered about that. And I'm like, so, you know, the validation of that, and David, who was down on our investigation at the bar, he's a super nice guy, and so it's just, there's certain people you can be around that will actually enhance your gifts, actually that energy that comes off them, and you know that you're in the right spot, you know. So
absolutely. Wendy and I pump each other like two antennas powering up. We just feed each other back and forth, and like you're saying,
other sentences.
And like with your friend David, how you were just picking up. Mike Wise was like that with me. He amplified me.
That was his best friend growing up.
Yeah, we were together since we were like 3.5.
Wow.
And he passed.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But it was just incredible how you pick up on these little bitty voids, these bubbles in everyday life. And they weren't here last week, why are they here this week?
Right.
I do have to share though. So he had a very long bond with Mike from the time they were 3 until he ended his own life. And the first person to ever come through for me to him was Mike. And it was a full 2 hours, and it was very confusing for me. It was I'd never had a reading like that before, and I thought they were friends in high school. And he literally took me back. So it was one of the most interesting experiments I've ever had, or experiences, was he did not he didn't stop me. He just said, quit questioning yourself, keep going. Because I'd be like, why is he showing me tricycles? Why is he showing me a brick in the middle of the road? And now I see this gate that's torn open and there's blood. And afterwards, I nailed everything. And the craziest, weirdest experience was he would grab my hand and pull me almost like a movie. So I'd see snapshots of him growing up. And the one he showed me that was the clearest was them playing on a playground. I was describing the playground equipment, but then all of a sudden I wasn't with them. I was on the porch looking out. And I described the detached garage and the dark pickup truck. And I described the house. And he brought some photo albums. About 2 weeks later, we were going through it, and when he flipped through, and I said, that's the house. That's what I was looking at. Remember the detached garage? And it had a dark pickup truck. It wasn't a big one, and it was a little short black pickup truck. And I'd never seen those photos before, so it was more validation that what Mike was showing me is like, yeah, that was his house, and this was the playground. And I didn't know that before the reading. I honestly, legitimately thought they'd been friends just since high school. So that was a really beautiful experience to have with such an amazing man. To have such a clear 2-hour reading is insane.
Right.
Because I just usually can't go that long.
Right.
And how long did you sleep afterwards? That must have been exhausting.
Right.
It was. And I closed my eyes for all of it. So it was very disorienting because he just finished cooking dinner. We had it. The steaks were resting, and boy, did they rest, because by the time I opened my eyes, it was dark. And I do remember being pretty tired, but kind of jazzed. So it's that exhaustion, but oh my freaking God, that was so cool. You know, and
Now,
trying to write down and remember everything.
Right. Do you often, when you do readings, what is your limit? I mean, how often do you usually go when you give a reading to somebody? Is it, a certain time frame that you go the longest, or is it just whatever spirit says to you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's whatever spirit because I've had some that are just like the shortest, quietest mofos in the room. And I get so irritated because I'll get like a 1 or 2 word thing, and it's like, come on, because you're almost like playing ball. Like, I hit something back.
Yep.
Now send it back to me. And some are just like, they just watch the ball drop and are like, I'm done. And I'm like, you must have been super quiet in real life too, because I need some work. So by far 2 hours, because I didn't even look at the time. It was when I opened my eyes and it was dark. We were like, how long was that? When I used to do readings in Reno, I would usually do 45 minutes. I felt was a good solid reading. Yep. Sometimes people could do an hour. Because a lot of stuff comes in. I don't know if this happens to you guys. If I'm really in a good headspace and get out of my headspace, I can get stuff super fast. It's almost like you get, and it's like this huge download. And I'm trying to, like, if y'all listen to my reading with Kim, it was very disjointed because as we were setting up, a couple of men showed up, but then the 3 aunties showed up, and they were like the witches of Eastwick. They blew apart everybody else. So it was all about them. And it was hard to get the messages from the quieter energies in the room.
The Mel.
So it felt, the reading was super disjointed because I'm trying to figure out, and it was beautiful. So I'll give you one of the coolest ones that I had, and then I'll let you, so I won't talk so much. I had one that I did, and I loved to do this in Reno, where I just had the person's first name and phone number in case I needed to reschedule. And I never booked it. The shop that I worked at booked it. So I didn't have any way to figure out back stuff. And this woman sat down in front of me, and right off the bat, I got a young male, which kind of throws me. I usually expect older spirits, I'll be honest. And I'll feshel myself. I'll be like, wow, I'm not expecting this. It's a young guy, like in his 20s, and he's super proud of how he died. Like, I didn't die the normal way. And she kind of grinned. And I was like, I said, like, he's like leaning back against this car. I said, but and then I'll argue with spirits. This is a quirk that I do when I'm not understanding. I'm gonna get really frustrated. I'll be like, that doesn't make any sense. I said, hold on a second. I'm telling the woman, hold on a second. And I look past her. I always kind of look past them because I don't like to read their body language. I just like to read to the spirit. Yep. And he's showing me a garage and a huge impact. So what he's showing me is this garage, car is slamming, but he keeps saying it's not a car accident. So he keeps showing the impact. That's what he's trying to show me, is the impact garage. And I'm like, okay, but how did you not hit anything with your car? And she goes pale. And I go, I'm just going to tell you what he's showing me. He's showing me this huge impact in a garage. And it's not making sense to me. And she goes, he jumped off the 3rd floor of a parking garage and killed himself.
Oh!
And I knew nothing about, and so that argument, and so they see that struggle that I'm really trying to figure out what the heck they're saying. Those are, I rejoice in, because it's like, okay, you communicated, I just spit it out. I don't have to interpret it. That's up to the person to interpret it. So if I get out of my way, they tend to come through really quick if I quit doubting it. So yeah, I've had and they're never gory. That's the other thing. The people who have shown me stuff will show me the magnitude of something happening. Like a guy got hit by an 18-wheeler, and I got that too, but I got just the crash and the enormity of the impact, but I don't ever see gore. I had another girl who committed suicide. She showed me the noose.
Right. Yeah, I don't really see I don't really see the gore either, but it's the initial. It's the initial act, like somebody I read for somebody whose son jumped off a cliff, and that's how I got that, but I didn't see anything afterwards. You know what I mean? So that message, it was simple. She wanted to know if it was him or if he was pushed, and you know what I mean, because they were skeptical if it was suicide or murder, and it was, and that was a first for me. But then it was like, yeah, it wasn't murder. And she's like, they kind of thought that. So there's different things like that. And when you talk about having messages come so fast, for me, it's kind of anything can happen. I mean, I'll get some that'll come through and then be like, that's all I got to say, see ya. And then they'll take off. And then it's like, okay. And it was like 10 minutes. And so what I usually do in that sense, and I'll give the message and then they'll receive it. And then I will give them the psychic reading. I'll describe some things that are happening in their lives and, what they have coming up and this and that. And I will let them know that that's what I'm doing. I won't transition without letting them know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just, there's so many there's spirits that like to hang out and say, yeah, I think I got a message, but I'm just going to hang out back here. And then you'll see them every once in a while. And it's like, okay, dude, either you're going to come through, you can't just hang out in the lobby, and that's
my father, by the way.
Yeah. And then,
my father doesn't say much.
Yeah. It's just weird because in my mind, I have this kitchen, this farmhouse kitchen, have my guides, and one's at one end, one's at the other. And I literally have a waiting room in my mind that I have, and it's got this veil of energy that if they want to come through, they have to walk through it, and they say, okay, I'll give you. But I have a lot of people in my waiting room. They pace back and forth, and they're not sure, and yeah, it's crazy. But talk a little bit about how you guys got started. I would ask Chuck this first. How did you get started in actually with the paranormal and with the mediumship? Was it something that you were born with to per se? I mean, that you realized at a very young age?
Yeah, as a young child, I realized I didn't quite fit in. I found things that people were looking for, like Mike and I, being boys. Hey, where's the lizard? Where's the snake? I don't know. Give me a minute to think about it. And like dropping that pebble into the water, those ripples of energy I'd send out, bring back, go through all that data, disseminate where was the best likely ping, and go that direction. That's at the age of like 3 or 4. By the age of 5, 6, 7, I'm pretty proficient at it. It's just I didn't know everybody else didn't have the same gifts or skill sets that I did. So when I tell the big kids as a 5 to 7-year-old, hey, I can hear a little girl calling my voice, calling my name. Wow, that was good. Down the creek about a mile. And they're all, no, you don't. So I finally got them convinced, and we went for a walk down the creek. And there in the middle of this big pool, about where I expected, was a dress. A little girl's dress laid perfectly out on the water. Now, my brain doesn't show me whether or not there's still a body in it. My mind I can't tell, but I know the dress is there. And after that, everybody kind of shied away from me. I was the weird person. So the gift came very early, shut it down, opened it back up, shut it down. And this last time, my guides told me, shut it down again and it'll kill you. So it's on, and here I am as a psychic medium. This gift uses all my talents and trades. They work in between, a regular 9-to-5 job with my skill set, so that I'm always trying to complete the job with the best outcome for the longest duration. So that's the short of the long.
Wow. Oh, that's kind of cool. Sounds a little bit about me, where I've shut it down and I went back and I shut it down. And it's like, yeah, so that I can relate to that. Yeah. And Wendy, same question for you.
Mine was I'm more of a predictive premonition is what started with me, and I was a sleepwalker, which it tends to be very common among children who have that gift. And mine were never good dreams, good premonition dreams, or at least I didn't remember them, which is kind of sad. So I had a repetitive dream that I was sitting down with my mom just the other day trying to do the timeline of it. And I believe I was a 7 or 8, really close to our oldest grandson's age. And the dream was always the same. It was in our formal living room. I described the furniture and everything that we didn't have yet. I dreamt the day that Dad told me he had cancer and was dying, and that Mom was going to remarry. Dad didn't have that diagnosis till I was 12. Sorry. That was 5 years of me having a repetitive dream of I'm sitting on the couch crying. Dad's telling me he's dying, and Mom is going to remarry, and that's okay. And I'm like, well, my dad died 2 days after our birthday. He turned 51. I turned 18. A man from our church called on my mom about a month later, as a lot of people did from our church. They ended up falling in love and got married before the end of that same year.
Wow.
And that was very upsetting for me. And I had never told my mom what the nightmare was, but she could tell by my reaction. I really had a meltdown, and it wasn't, oh, because my dad died and you're marrying so quickly, though that was part of it. When she got me calmed down, I kept telling her, this is the repetitive dream that I kept sleepwalking around the house and trying to make everything okay. So when it actually came true at 12, I shut it down really, really hard, because I tend to have premonition dreams when the men in our family are going to die. I have those really, really clearly, and they've been accurate every time. So when that's uncomfortable, I just shut that down. I've always had a love of the macabre. I remember watching horror movies at a very young age and being fascinated with death and being fascinated with scaring people. And I even worked professionally in a haunted house, the Halloween ones where you do the makeup and stuff. I started going back into it when I had nothing else to distract me, if that makes sense. I had focused on my really bad marriage, and when that ended, I focused on raising my daughter and finishing my degree. And then I finished my master's, and it was like, what the heck am I going to do next? And then it was like, start working on your spirituality. And I happened to find a place that nurtured it. They actually told me point blank, they felt like, and Chuck hadn't even expressed his mediumship with them. They said they felt, and this is a place that had been around for years, and they had psychic mediums, but both the high priestess and the high priest said, we feel like you're the first legitimate medium to come across our community. And I was like, they had me doing high ceremonies and stuff because I channeled spirit super quick. But this is the man that put the fire in it for it to grow, the sunlight, because then he magnified. I'm really good at closing down and shutting things off because I have a 9 to 5 that I need to focus on my patients. And he helps open that door and me be a little more open and not so literal. And then he started talking about the podcast, and I actually uttered, people don't want to hear what I have to say. I know
that one.
Right.
Yeah, bullpucky.
So, and then, we got such beautiful
Bullpucky.
So we get this beautiful support and feedback, because I feel like I told Chuck, I don't listen to podcasts. What I want is it to be a fun, uplifting podcast that deals with heavy issues. And I want hospice to be discussed, and I want end of life planning to be discussed, and I want to talk to spirits. Like, to me, it's all one thing now. But when I used to work hospice, I couldn't tell them that I was a psychic medium. They had to be completely separate, which is super hard when you're standing at a hospice person's bed and you see the portal behind them and you know it's coming. And I've talked to family members. I had one that passed and never spoke a word to me. She was in a coma, and she showed me the story of how her sister got a nickname. She gave her sister a nickname, saw the whole thing. So when I called her, I was like, how do I do this? And I said, sisters always have nicknames for each other. She had a nickname for you, didn't she? And she told me the story. And I was like, that's my way of honoring that she wanted to get the message across, but I couldn't tell her. So it was just my way of kind of trying to help ease that. But I would love to come out of the closet, so to speak, and do this more and more. Chuck and I would love to do this for a living full time and help people. I've told Kelly that I think that you can do legitimate work and make money. And I don't mean that in a money grubbing way. I think if we work to do this in a very respectful, valid way, that this wouldn't be a pseudo science, so to speak. And so that's where me and Kelly really line up our views is documented evidence. And she'll tell you, I don't want anything fed to me. I want to grow that skill when we go on an investigation. I don't want to know a thing, because he magnifies me, I magnify him, and then wherever we're around, we tend to jolt up too. But we don't play up stuff. You can ask Kelly. I'm not very, there's a horrible spirit over here. I'm just very like, this happened here, this happened here, this happened here. He says that. And then I'll sit there for a while. We were in the barn and I was like, I'm not getting anything. And she's like, I'm not either. And I was like, okay. So we went to the next one.
And
so
that happened.
That was a long about answer, but this really is the man who got me doing all this.
You're a good man, Chuck. You're a good man.
Thank you. Good man.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's
Now I'm really getting that shirt for you.
Say again.
Well, now I'm really going to get that shirt for Chuck.
Oh, the Charlie Brown shirt.
Yeah.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
There you go.
Hey, Chuck, you kicked this ball, Chuck. Yeah. Liz, I'm sorry about your sister, by the way.
Yeah.
Liz said that her sister died from cancer about a month ago. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Liz has been a staple on our show and my other show too. She's always supported and so
Damien stopped by. I don't know if he's still
I saw
there
that in
not.
there too. Yeah.
Hey, Damien.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, talking with Kelly, one of the reasons why I tapped her to be the host is just that connection. I knew that I needed a really good researcher, and I had, contacted a couple other people, but her picture kept coming up, and Spirit was like, it's right there. What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know this person.
It's like what Damien says when it comes to the researching thing. He says, I don't know anything about this, and I pop up something with like 2 seconds later. He just goes, how the hell do you do that?
Right, yeah. Right. And so when I tap her for that, and then she's got all this information, and I'm the same way. She doesn't tell me anything, especially like the last investigation we did. We didn't, I didn't want to know, but because of the fact that things were different, because there were people there that kind of, it didn't go well, but
no.
Sometimes the energy can get shifted with people there. I prefer less people actually.
They technically really weren't supposed to be there. I didn't know. It was kind of like it was supposed to be me and somebody else, and then all of a sudden 6 people showed up, and they were at the bar and drinking, and so she said that she's going to have us out again. Yeah, so she said that she's going to have us out when nobody's there and everything's going to be off, and I said, okay, that's fine, we'll schedule that. But so let's talk a little bit more about that investigation with the Octagon House. Is there something else specific that you guys were really looking forward to seeing that you're hearing that you didn't?
Yes, it was much more dead than I expected. I'd heard so much activity happened, and there really wasn't a whole lot.
Right.
It was really quiet. It was very quiet that night. We didn't have huge EMF hits like we did on the first investigation. There weren't. It's like as if, okay, we know you guys now. We'll let you in, and we'll like slowly. That whole bubble in the top on the second floor was bizarre. Yeah, I'd never had that one before.
Right. Wendy, I wanted to ask you something. When you were talking about you smelt bodies. I mean, I believe. Well, I'm going to ask you first. Do you think that mediums can kind of turn that sense off? Because I choose not to use like health, like if I have a pain or if I have a something going, because I got health issues anyways, and I would never be able to differentiate between the two. It's like so are mediums able to kind of ask or turn that off, or that, you know what I mean, so that they don't get confused? Or is that just what Spirit says, okay, you're only going to do this, you're only going to experience this, so
to me, smell is actually something I don't get a lot of hits on. So I have a super sensitive nose, but when I'm going through, I just try to, and Kelly is super jazzed about it. I'm just like, I'm just going to say whatever I get a hit on. And she's like, do you want me to verify? And I was like, no, I just need it all to come out and then we'll verify afterwards. I can close down hearing and seeing really quickly, but I don't get a lot of hits on my nose. So I really do take that one in. The one that I struggle with is when, because how I do reading and how I was trained is, I don't struggle anymore with the name. I want them to show me what they look like and they have to show me how they died. And that's usually in my body at some point. And it's very uncomfortable because I let them, it's physically painful. That one I have to be open to. And I usually am pretty anxious in the beginning because I want them to show me how they died really quickly so that we're talking to the right person. That's the skill set that I turn off. I can't speak for all mediums, but that's the one that in order for them to kind of occupy my body for a half a second, I have to open up to that. But then it's like, okay, out, we're done.
Right.
But the smell, I've only ever gotten, his stepfather came and came to our house and it was stalking his mom. And I got a smell of overwhelming BO in a part of our house that nobody walks around.
Chuck's
It's a corner.
says it all.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
And it followed me.
Yeah.
So I'm walking in. I'm like, what the? And Kathy was sitting on our couch. That's his mom. And I walked to the corner, and not even the dog. Lizzie wasn't really doing anything.
Mm-mm.
And I was like, what? Kathy goes, I smell it too. I go, I do too. And then of course I jokingly was like, is it me? Is it you?
Yeah, it's none of us.
I go to sit down and he swirls around me to the point where I checked my chair. The BO was so bad. Right. And we ended up telling him to go. Chuck went to the door and we were like, you're not welcome. Yep. You need to cross over. Because he was a bully in life and he's a bully afterwards because I didn't even want to talk to him. He loomed over me and was very scary. So I told Chuck, I said, I need you to handle it because it was making me really nauseous. I've got a hit on that. I got a hit on the body there. And his best friend, when he came through, had me smell bacon in the middle of the reading. I'm like, why am I smelling bacon? You want to tell him why he made me smell bacon?
Hampton was a potbelly pig that Russ and Jenny had.
I wasn't expecting that.
I wouldn't either.
It's even better.
Oh, it gets better.
So Hampton and I'm trying to remember the little girl's name, the pig. Anyway, Mike and I are out in the kitchen frying bacon, looking at Hampton and going, you're lucky, buddy, or you'd be in the skillet too.
And also, didn't you say making bacon?
Yep, making bacon.
So I don't get a lot of smell hits. I really don't. Those are the three most distinctive ones. Yeah. So I trust it when it comes through because my sense of smell is super high. But those are the only 3 times in a reading. Yeah. But when I'm doing readings, usually it's where they show me where they died, and then they're in my third eye just showing me things.
Right. Yeah, I can't do the whole pain thing. I just, because of the fact that I've got my own health issues, it's hard for me to differentiate between the two. And Spirit knows that, Spirit knows that.
Yep.
But like, if I get a reading, myself. If I get a reading with somebody that comes through, one lady didn't show me how she died. She just showed me the way she looked before she died.
Interesting.
And like she was an addict and she was, drawn and rough and, and I get that sense of like heroin use or something like that. You know what I mean? And then when I got the message to her loved ones, she came through pristine clear. You know what I mean? So she used that imagery to show me that's how I died, and so she, me being basically an addict I have my whole life, I could not partake in that. You know what I mean? I could not experience it. Been there, done that. Don't want to feel it again. You know what I mean? Right. So,
yes.
So, yeah. So, it's weird how Spirit, they can show you things and then they just, it comes out of left field. It just comes out of left field. And it's like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Or it gives you a sense an image or something, and it's like, and things that I've not experienced. Kelly, I have to ask you, being
Yes,
the
ma'am.
other host, have you experienced anything like that? Like any, like an imagery or something that really took you by surprise?
Get my head on there.
I get a lot of third eye movies. I get a lot of the third eye pictures. This year was the first year that I got smells.
Okay.
Mother's Day, I was in the kitchen and it's like this overwhelming scent of a bouquet of flowers. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
And then later that night, as I'm laying in bed trying to go to sleep, I smelled fresh baked cookies.
Oh.
So, and there was a woman that lived in this house before me. I've not had any kind of activity whatsoever. And those were the only two things that, but then y'all both Jay and Chuck and Wendy tell me that there was that one week when I was having weird things happening and people were passing through the house.
Yep.
And okay, who's knocking?
Yeah, I heard that.
I don't know. I just scratched my leg when you said
Is
that.
anybody knocking? That's weird. Okay. I don't know where it is. It was definitely knocking.
Was it in your house, like on your door?
I don't know. No, no.
No,
the dog would be
I mean
barking.
the door.
See, that's how I know it's not my house, because the dog would be barking.
Yeah, and I don't. This house is loud anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
It has
was like,
its own
it was like
energy.
somebody in wall.
It could be. It also could be. We have some guys upstairs in my
there it is again.
my mother-in-law's bathroom.
I just heard it.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
It's like a thump.
He's redoing the shower probably. So
okay.
Okay, that might
so
be.
He's
Okay,
probably
there we go.
That would be it.
Okay,
not
because
to
I heard
freak
it
anybody out.
Debunked.
Yeah, debunked.
Debunked.
And that's another thing that
Well, to finish my story before you go further is the one thing that I get hits on the most is when I'm doing ancestry. And I thought it was only ancestry for myself that I would get hits on it. So I decided to test it out, and I got five victims to give me their information, and I went off to do their research, and their ancestors talked to me too.
That is so weird.
They were showing me pictures.
I've never experienced
where they were living, everything. Yeah. And they would also help me find people. They would say, no, that's not them.
Maybe that's why I picked you.
No, that's not them. Maybe, I don't know. Well, it's helped me in my research because people say, how do you find that so fast? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
It just comes to me, and I put it in, and sure as shit, there it is.
Yeah, that's
and that's I don't know if there's anybody else that has this type of mediumship. I don't know.
I've never heard. I've heard it's like commentary, but I mean, but
yeah, geomancy,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know where it comes from. I have no idea.
I love it.
Yeah. I love it. I really do.
Yeah. And so that's just that'd be awesome.
Especially when I have a bad feeling about somebody and I check them out, and it's like, oh yeah, that's why. Oh yeah, I got it. Cool. Yeah.
Right. So what do you guys?
I'm getting.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm getting a hit for Liz. Did your sister have some kind of cancer that was in her? I'm getting a hit on like the gallbladder, liver,
Pancreas.
upper stomach. I heard stomach at first, but I'm getting some kind of intestinal issues. So I just wanted to let you know that. And I'm going to Scotland April of next year, so we'll have to keep in touch.
Hate you.
Yeah.
Me. Okay, so before I met Chuck, me and my mom booked a cruise before COVID to go to the Nile. And because COVID hit, we had to reschedule. So we rescheduled, but the cruise, because Chuck's not vaccinated, which I honor, but I am, I can't have him on the cruise. So I didn't want to lose the money that I'd put down on this cruise. So me and mom went ahead and booked a 14-day British Isle cruise to Scotland and Wales and all sorts of beautiful places.
You'll have to tell me where you're going to be in Scotland, because my cousin's up there.
Oh, nice.
And they're ghost hunters too.
Yay.
Yeah. So if you see
fun.
Anna and Peter Ling on my friends list, Anna's my cousin. Peter is her husband.
All right. So
So Liz said yes, she did. She had some kind of intestinal, gallbladder, or pancreatic cancer. Okay. Because I kept going.
He's looking for a stud now.
Who's looking? What? What?
It's like over and over and over. It's like he's looking for a stud.
Yeah, the guy upstairs.
Oh,
he doesn't know.
I was like, huh? I have my stud. Whoops.
Yeah, I know you have that one. Yeah. It's like I keep telling you, I need some of that hair. I want to clone him.
Right. So
I gotta clone him.
So you know, it's cool. I love to have other mediums on the show, and I would really like, just really quick, if maybe get a reading, even though you know Kelly, you know what I mean, but you know me a little bit. But is there a small reading that you and Chuck could give me? That you would that
sure.
that our audience would like to hear.
Sure.
Open myself up
yeah.
to that.
This will
take hold on.
Hang on a second. Let's grab some stones.
Okay. Yeah, I probably opened myself up. I'm like, oh, what did I do that?
You have just hit the big one on this. You're just
Well,
because you didn't ask me because I already told them what I got on you.
Oh. Nice. I don't know how to take that.
Now,
all right.
Kelly had asked me about her grandmother too, and I had tuned in a little bit.
Oh no!
You're not being left out of
I mean,
this,
everybody's got two grandmothers, but one was nice and one wasn't so much.
No, one was not nice.
I dealt with the one who was
nice.
Who was nicer. I tend to.
Don't talk
if
to
spirits are assholes. I tell them to kick rocks. Actually, quite often.
Right.
I had been given readings for a while.
Yeah, I usually tell I usually just basically, if I try to show them respect in a way where they will basically talk to me. It took me a while to get one that finally, because he wouldn't let me say his name. I knew who it was, and I respected him enough to not say his name on the air. Or it was when I did a podcast at a haunted location in a hotel, and so I knew who he was, and I just respected the fact of who he was, what he did, and I don't. So he knows who I am. Every time I go to visit, he's like, "What are you doing here?" So
that male energy.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Did you have a male in your life who, and of course I know your background, so I'm trying not to extrapolate, but I'm getting kind of an angry male, and I don't usually default to this, so I don't like starting off with, was he an alcoholic? You had a male figure who was a pretty angry man who was an alcoholic. Okay. So he's coming through a kind of judgmental person too.
Yeah, very.
So I don't like to encourage
now, as we're talking, I get pictures of overalls, railroad tracks, the ties. So he worked the line itself.
It was manual. Okay, I was going to say manual type laborer.
Yeah, very strong. Very at points could be very aggressive, but
really hard.
Most.
But that was part of his.
This is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So he's about 6'1".
Yep.
6'2".
Very lean.
Yeah.
But his attitude has always been, this is how life is, forgive me, this is how life is fucking gonna be. Life doesn't owe you anything.
If you want it, you better go out there and get it your damn self.
Right.
I ain't here for a pity party.
And if he was alive today, he would hate the snowflakes. That's
yeah.
He is. The entitlement pisses him off.
So I actually see like the old whiskey jugs, like he was a moonshiner as well. Oops.
But he was also very ill. Like I'm showing, and I don't know if this is his way of telling me he is your grandfather, because I'm seeing my grandparents' dining room table. My dad's parents were both really sick from, they both died when I was 10. Their dining room table was lined with medications, and that's what he's showing me. So I don't know if he had some kind of chronic illness where he was taking a lot, or if that was his way of telling me I'm his grandpa. Or both. It could be both. Because sometimes they show me pictures of stuff in my life to
I'm
convey a
waiting
message
with
to
bated
you.
breath.
So,
Well, he keeps showing me this action right here. Like he's tipping up a 2.5 gallon.
Okay.
oh, he's
Yeah,
got
it's
it
kind of like
hooked.
a back.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's got the hook in the bottle,
Okay.
and he's
Okay.
tipping up.
Okay.
It just seems like a very natural, rhythmic thing that he does. So I don't know if he was making shine on the weekends or something, but I keep getting the moonshine jug but drinking, and I don't feel
Okay.
the burn of like moonshine. So I'm not sure what I'm picking up other
Okay.
than this action of
Okay.
drinking.
Hi, Victor.
And his wife was
Chuck and
very,
Wendy are reading Jay right now.
very soft spoken. She was
Mhm.
kind of the, she liked to try to help heal everybody afterwards. Kind of a nicer person, shorter in stature. That would, she's showing me baking cookies, which is such a grandma thing. But she was the lovey one. She was the one who would give good hugs and try to make your bobos go away. And but she stayed with him. I think that was more of a generational thing.
Yeah.
And not out of love, but out of obligation.
I feel like he built their house as well.
I was sitting there looking at that
Because I was going through the house. It was like
when you bring me on your stuff too.
a Victorian 2-story. The weird thing is that I see it out in the field, but
I'm going to say that I see it more basic. It's not
yeah,
ornate.
yeah, it's not super ornate, but the style is Victorian. I see white and yellow.
Okay.
White is the main color. They had some fancy, I forget what the proper name is for wood carvings, and they had like a filigree. There was like a half sunflower underneath several of the windows, and they were done up really beautiful. They were done in like it's a contradicting of terms, but it was bright pale yellow. I'm thinking I'm seeing sun fading, and that's why some spots are brighter than others.
I see him buried in like an old fashioned cemetery. He was a God fearing person, and that was a big thing. I just see a very basic.
It's like a family plot on the land,
like on a hill.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing.
So I'm looking at the foreground of the house, and then seeing hills up behind it.
Did she call you like sweetie or sweetheart? She's leaning over and she's putting her hand on your hand, and she's like, "You're doing good, honey. You're doing good, sweetheart."
The person that you're talking about, I never met, and
interesting. Okay.
Either him.
Okay.
Wow.
But
that's crazy. But are we accurate on that? Because they're around you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That would have been my father's dad. Okay. And he was born in 1881.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he was 6'2".
Okay.
And his wife was 5'1" or 4'9" or something like that. And there was
kind of like my grandpa.
It's a different age difference. He was 18 and she was 13. They were married in 1903 or something, or 2 or something like that.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
did they work on the railroad?
No, but when you talked about Bray Road, okay, Bray Road is right by my house. It's like Bray Road is it can lead you to shortly where it's right by where my grandfather passed away at the cemetery or at the old home.
Okay.
He died in his sleep in 1966. And so Bray Road is not too far from there, but he was a laborer. He was a farmer. He was this, he was that. I don't ever remember hearing that he built a house. He lived in a non-conventional 2-story farmhouse that was erected. I don't know if he erected it or it was what, but it's not. I drive by it every day to work. It's
cool.
it's still there, and somebody owns it, and it's got outhouses, outbuildings and stuff, and
Nice.
that.
Wow.
My grandmother was the lovey kind, from what I heard. I
She still is.
actually, so
Seriously, she's like,
yeah.
doing good.
So, but she
So
would
proud.
also not put up with his crap either.
Interesting. Okay.
She would, if she gave birth to 16 kids.
Oh,
Oh,
My
wow.
my dad was the youngest. So yeah,
No.
was he an alcoholic?
my dad
No,
or
your
my
grandfather.
yeah, they all drank. Okay,
Mhm.
to tell you a story real quick, my grandfather in the 60s was in a really bad car accident. Tractor hit him broadside, and he was in the hospital, and his brain had swelling. And the doctor said, I don't know what else we can do, and this and that. And my father came in and said, put beer in his IV. And they now listen, and they said, it said, no, we can't do that. You say, I guarantee it. If you put beer in his IV, the swelling will go down. And so the one doctor did it. They put beer in his IV. Within a day, the swelling went down, and he woke up. Because of the fact that, so when you say that he drank like that, that was, and my mom knew that,
Makes
and my
sense.
dad knew that. And,
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so that was kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've been in the hospital where doctors prescribe beer because we don't want patients detoxing while they're in the hospital.
Yeah. So this was back in the 60s, so 50s or 60s.
Before that was a thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. So
weird.
Yeah, so I have to tell you a dream that I had when my father was sick. My father died when he was 55, and I was 18. Oh, wow. Okay, so he had pancreatic cancer. Now, before he passed away, and I was living in an active home downtown where I live, and I had seen a spirit appear to me at the end of my bed, and she looked at me, and I was mad at her because she woke me up, and I was 18, and I was like, or 16, I was like, what, and I rolled over, and I had a dream. I was standing on that farm that you described, that house. I was standing there talking to a man who I never met, never seen a picture of, wearing overalls and standing 6 foot tall, and telling me, your father's really sick. You just need to be there for him. Pray for him, and this and that, and he loves all you kids, and so he's going through some stuff. Just be there. And I said, okay. So I showed my mom. I told my mom that, and my mom showed me a picture because I described him, and I seen it, and I saw that picture, and I was like, yeah, that's him. She says, don't ever tell your father that dream. And I said, okay, I won't. And I never did.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So having, be in Wisconsin, and this is where we basically were all, from, and Illinois and this and that. But yeah, so it hit true, a lot of the stuff that you were saying. But yeah, my my grandpa would not like the snowflakes today. Yeah. So, but yeah, so thank you for that. That was, that's the first time that anybody has ever brought them through.
Right.
Yay.
Yeah, that's who was strong. It was like, I didn't have to tune in very long to get him. He's a strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really easy to get along with.
He's buried in it's a cemetery that my parents and other relatives are all buried in the same cemetery, and it's called Oak Hill Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So both sets of grandparents are buried there, cousins, uncles, aunts, my parents. And
is theirs on a hill?
Yeah.
Where they're buried?
It is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's on a probably one of the highest parts.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still can't find his grave. I've been looking for his grave for years, and
challenge accepted.
Give me the name.
Yeah.
I don't have. I know that it's in the cemetery, and my friend tells me it's over here by so and so, and I'm like,
I find graves that people
Yeah.
can't find.
Yeah. So
It's
so
easy.
thank you for that. Yeah. So I really appreciate that. That was nice, you guys. And this is, part of the reason why I like to have people, listen in and to say that, mediums do exist. There are
Mm-hmm.
just as many, there are probably more great mediums than there are bad mediums. I mean, people who are just out
Agree.
to scam people and,
Right.
who just are looking for the money aspect, but there are good mediums out there, and these
There.
people, their lives are, thriving to help people. When I run into people who know who I am and this and that and know my gift, I've had people tell me, they look at me and they say, gosh, you just want to help everybody. And it's like, yeah, and that's true. I mean,
It is.
mostly true mediums. It's just, that's the main goal. We're all learning and we're all educating other people. We're all helping.
Right.
Yes.
And you guys are the epitome of that. I mean, you guys,
Aw.
Oh,
yeah, seriously, the
Thank
way
you.
when I've listened to your show a couple times and you guys interact with people in a way where it makes them feel at ease, and
Thank you.
other things can open up. And even talking with Kelly about that and just talking about you guys and that's why I like having Kelly as a host as well, because she's easy to talk to, and we have a lot of things in common in the spiritual side, spiritual, and so
Yes.
and she's
We're
good
making
at
her blush.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So, it's just one of those things where, doing these shows and talking with other people and making new friends and the interactions with everybody, it's all positive energy, and it all
Right.
comes out. And
Yeah.
you guys put out a lot of it. Kelly puts out a lot of it. I do my best at putting out a lot of it, and so
You do good.
it's just, reaching out to other people so people can listen to a message and say, I take something from that. It's not just a podcast. It's not just, an audio file. It's something
Right.
that has, meaning and purpose.
Right.
So,
That brings
It's
value to
sending out
people.
it's sending out that acceptance to connect.
right.
It's like, here we are, come connect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, didn't you say
I
you
have-
had something going on with her grandmother?
I did. But Kelly, I'm gonna call you later, sweetheart. I gotta get back. Unfortunately, this isn't
Ooh.
my 9 to
Okay.
5, so I gotta get back to my other job.
She's got
But-
to go. She's got to go.
But I
from
will, and I'll
lunch.
see her this weekend too. So I'll give you more info on
Nice.
that. But I just wanted to say before we close, Chuck and I decided to take, I think, a well-deserved, just
Yeah.
a couple months off. It's our anniversary,
Okay.
and
Happy
so we're going to
anniversary.
start. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It's 1 year married, 3 years together.
Woo.
He was
Nice.
smart, and we did it on the same day, so I don't have to remember multiple.
Cool.
Good job. So, but we're going to start back in August. So we're going to start recording in July and start releasing in August. And my husband has talked me into YouTube because I didn't want to do my makeup and people see me. But it's not as painful as I thought. So we're going to bring in that YouTube aspect of our podcast as well.
Greatly appreciated, Jay
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Kelly,
Yeah.
because now she's getting more comfortable with it, and we're gonna progress to the next step.
And that's awesome. And we can't wait. And we want to be there for that,
Yeah.
And so,
Thank you.
everybody tuning into this,
You're
we
gonna love
want to
it.
thank our guests, Wendy and Chuck Wilson from Two Mediums
Thanks, guys.
Show.
Thank you.
Love you too.
And we
Love
want
you.
to say that you can catch this on Parapost Network. You can catch this on YouTube, on Studio 6 Productions page, as well as any audio file podcast platform you can get your podcast on. It'll be uploaded
Nice.
today. We want to thank you
Yeah.
again,
Yep.
and want to thank
Wow.
our viewers for this. Everybody
Thank
have
you,
a
everyone.
fantastic Monday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful Monday.
Mondays
Thank
are
you.
great.
Yes.